we have a very special guest. We're talking about things we can do with our children in the summer. And Heather Dugan is on Skype with us from Lindamood Bell. Heather, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, let's start with Lindamood Bell. What is Lindamood Bell?
Lindamood Bell is an organization that helps both children and adults develop language processing skills. So we see some students who may have difficulty with reading, other students who have difficulty with comprehension. Many of our students on the autism spectrum have that difficulty processing language to understand. So we're often working intensively with these students to develop those skills that they need help with.
Awesome.
Okay, and how does the program work? Is it web-based? Is it classroom-based? Tell us how kids access the program.
Sure. We have about 50 learning centers all over the United States, as well as a center in London and Sydney, Australia. And these are learning centers where, again, both children and adults can come for specific instruction in the areas that they're needing support in. So the first step in the process is to schedule an evaluation. And based on that evaluation, we're able to see strengths and weaknesses related to language processing. We make recommendations from there, and then we're able to see those students often intensively in the summertime. So our kids are with us here in our learning centers for one-on-one instruction, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, for a period of weeks depending on their specific profile or needs. Does that help give you sort of the big picture?
Yes, it does. That's very helpful. And you work with adults too.
We do, yes. I would say the summertime we see more children than adults, but we're able to work with students as young as about 4 years old. And the oldest student I worked with was an 83-year-old man a few years ago. So age, there's really no limit.
Okay. Now tell us about working specifically with kids, individuals on the autism spectrum. I imagine you work with a lot of individuals on the autism spectrum.
We absolutely do, and while there are always trends to speak to, we also know that these children are also different. So it's important for us to get to know each specific case. But one of the trends that we know to be true of a lot of these children and adults is that comprehension is a challenge. So typically a student will come to us. They may have an autism diagnosis, and from the testing we can see that listening to information or reading information and then understanding it is challenging. What we know of the brain is that to be able to understand something or to remember something, you have to picture it. And people who love reading love to read because it takes them away to another place, and you can sort of see yourself in this setting. And for a lot of our kiddos with autism, that imagery is challenging for them to create, especially for more abstract concepts, for new information. And so when we're working with these students intensively, we're working to develop that process of imagery, because we know that process really underlies so much of what we do, both at school and at home and out in the world, in terms of communicating with this world.
That's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
And so 4 to 5 hours a day, does it always need to be in the morning, or do you have some afternoon classes?
We have both morning and afternoon sessions. Our morning session is 8 a.m. to noon, and then our afternoon session is 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And it's important to note that I realize that the 4-hour-a-day schedule can be slightly intimidating for parents to hear and for students to hear too. We acknowledge that, and part of what we do to sort of help kids through this process is to have them work with more than one teacher. So we don't have Johnny sitting in a desk for 4 hours straight with one teacher having to do the same thing over and over again. We know that these kids need to move, they need variety. We change up the teacher every hour. They'll have their sort of set group of teachers that they get to know, but they're not going to have to sit 4 hours straight. We've got kids here. I'm in Newport Beach. We have a lawn where we'll go outside and do a story sitting on the grass, for example, just to keep the environment changing, keep things fresh and new. But we find that intensive schedule, coming 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, is really what helps helps to make the difference in terms of processing language. I always say, just like learning a new language, you can take a class once a week at a community college to learn Spanish, and you may start to learn Spanish, but you'll never feel really comfortable or confident in it. But if you just go to Mexico for a month, you're going to learn Spanish. So we use the sort of same philosophy, particularly with people who are struggling to process language. So that's why that intensive schedule is so important to us.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah, I'd love to know about how you measure success with the program. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Heather, in terms of what kind of improvements you see and maybe some success stories you have had, some instances, particularly with children on the spectrum?
Sure. We always say here at Lindamood Bell that we want to help people learn to their potential or to reach their potential. And the exciting part of my job is that I know for some of our students, success is saying, "I love you, Mommy," for the first time. That can be a huge milestone for some of our students. While other students, success is getting into Harvard. And so because we see so many different profiles of students, success is going to look different for each of them. But we do measure that progress and that success beyond just the sort of anecdotal evidence and hearing the great stories about progress that families are seeing. We do test. I mean, we're into the data here. We want to prove it,
Yeah.
So we always start with that initial evaluation, which can take anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And we use a battery of standardized, nationally normed assessments to look sort of across the board at language processing. So we'll look at reading skills, we'll look at comprehension, math, spelling, so on and so forth. Once the student goes through the program, we retest at the end so we can compare apples to apples to see, okay, receptive vocabulary has gone up 2 years. And following oral directions has gone up so many percentile points, so that we can really measure progress. But beyond that, I always say I'm into the testing, but it's not everything. We need to be talking every week about how things are going, the improvements that we're seeing both here and at home. Sometimes I'll hear a mom say, Susie asked me how my day was for the first time ever. That's a big deal to some families, and it's showing that processing is changing for that child.
Wonderful. I have a question about challenging behavior, because this sounds like it would be a good program for a lot of our kids, but I'm curious to know for your teachers, how trained are they, how prepared are they to deal with challenging behavior that can come with some of our kids?
Good question.
That's a really good question. I appreciate you asking that. We do see some students who have challenging behaviors, and we have sort of specific training in using some behavior modifications within the Lindamood Bell programs. And they're similar to what you'll see in different school programs. Students are earning prizes and we're managing behavior sort of in that way. But these are also often kids who have gone through ABA. They have a behavior therapist, and we are all about talking to the team and collaborating about what works for this student. I have students who have worked to earn time with my pet parrot, and they're willing to really work hard if they can visit with that parrot. Others are earning a trip to Disneyland or a little plastic prize in the prize box. It's going to depend on the student. And if we have concerns about behavior, if in that sort of initial conversation we have with a family, we're hearing that there may be some concerning behaviors that we may not be able to handle, we like the student to come in, meet with us, let's kind of get to know them. We may want to talk to the behavior therapist or the school teacher, the sort of go-to person, to see if we can collaborate and come up with a plan. Every once in a while, we'll have a behavior aid come to instruction with the student, and that's sort of case by case, depending on the situation.
Well, that's a pretty good answer, Heather.
What a good answer. This is very impressive.
It is very impressive. So here's the big question. How much does it cost, and what financial aid is available if there is any, but what is the approximate cost?
Sure. That is an important question. The testing right now, the testing is the first step, and that helps us to see how much instruction will be necessary for this student. The testing is $295. It's running on this rate, I believe, until the end of May. So if you're interested in testing, I would contact a learning center soon to schedule that assessment. And again, that's about 3 to 4 hours. You'll get together with the center director about a week after the testing to go over the results results and talk about recommendations.
Okay.
Now, in terms of instruction, the cost will vary slightly depending on the center that you're attending and where in the country you are. But you're looking at around $2,000 a week for an intensive 20-hour-a-week program, which is what most of our students are attending for in the summer.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good
information. In terms of financial aid, I'll just throw it out there. There are sometimes scholarships available through what's called the Rhett Bell Scholarship Foundation. I don't know that they're currently accepting applications. I believe that there's a website that you could probably Google Rhett Bell, and that's Rhett as in Gone with the Wind. And we sometimes have group instruction available during the school year. This is on sort of a case-by-case basis where we're needing to be sure that that group instruction will be appropriate for the specific student, but group instruction is less expensive than the one-on-one.
Okay, awesome. And if people are interested in finding out more information, where can they go?
Well, you can certainly visit our website, www.lindamoodbell.com. That's written out all one word. You can also call an 800 number, and that number is 1-800-233-1819. And that should route you to the nearest learning center, so that you can get specific information from your neck of the woods.
Okay,
say that number one more time.
We
put the website up, but tell us the number one more time, Heather.
The 1-800 number, it's 800-233-1819.
Okay.
Awesome. Heather, thank you so much for all of this information.
And I have to say, after talking about at the beginning of the show, we were talking about the really disturbing case in New Jersey of the teachers in the special ed school that, the father taped the audio, and obviously there being a problem with some training of some teachers. Today, after talking with you and Nicole, I have to say I'm so impressed with your enthusiasm and love for these programs, and it's just so great to know there are educators out there like you and Nicole that are really helping our kids. So thank you. You're very enthusiastic. We've really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with both of you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.